So yeah, this is going to be an interesting topic. Transformers has not been in a really good state lately. Things just continue getting worse for Hasbro and the Transformers brand as a whole. Everything has just kept backfiring at them so many times. It's been failure after failure for Transformers, and it just makes people wonder, I'm not the only one who's wondering this, what is actually going on with Transformers? Transformers has not been doing well for the past couple of years, which sucks because Transformers is one of Hasbro's top growing franchises that they have for brands. Maybe you could argue the top one would be like Star Wars action figures, but if we don't count like other licenses that are owned by different companies like Marvel and Star Wars, if we just talk about Hasbro brands in general, Transformers has to be the most popular. I would say My Little Pony is probably the second one, knowing that there are a lot of people who collect My Little Pony. I'm not one of them. I'm not a brony. Like, it is just sad. Transformers used to be on top of the world for the longest time. It first started back in the 80s with the original toy line, which they required from Takara and Americanized the franchise and made it what it is today. And we had the movie, which didn't perform the greatest, unfortunately, because it's a really good movie. I really like it. It's probably my most favorite Transformers movie, I'm not gonna lie, even though being a Bayverse fan. But then you get to Generation 2, which killed the franchise for a bit. Then Beast Wars saved it. Then Beast Machines killed it again. And then we started rebooting the franchise. And it went from reboots such as Robots in Disguise, which was taken directly from Japan. Then a collaboration with Japan, Armada was a thing. Then Energon, then Cybertron, then Animated, then Transformers Prime, and so on and so forth. The brand was doing really good, especially with the help of the first Michael Bay movie, which also helped boost Hasbro's numbers for Transformers. The franchise was not stopping anytime soon. Toy sales were up through the roof. There were many series that readaptated the story of the Autobot and Decepticon war. It went from video games to shows to books to comic books. Like, the franchise was victorious and was very profitable. Unfortunately, the last good performing Transformers movie in the Michael Bay era was Age of Extinction. You could argue the quality over the film all you want, but you have to admit the film did really good in the box office. But ever since Age of Extinction, besides last night, Transformers stuff just began to fall off. Like, for example, Robots in Disguise 2015 was not as great as people probably wanted it to be. Personally, I never hated Robots in Disguise 2015. I thought it was a fine show. Were there some downgrades to it? Of course there were. But even back in 2015, I enjoyed it for the most part. I even liked some of the designs of the Transformers. Not every single one. There were bad designs in that show. But continuing on, of course, we had TLK be the failure. And then, at the same time, Bumblebee came out, like, the next year. And it sort of restored hope to the franchise a bit for all the G1 fans. Personally, I did not care for the Bumblebee movie. I thought it was average at best. And then, at the same time, Cyberverse came out. And that ended up being a success for Hasbro. I thought the first season was fine when I first watched it. I haven't really watched the rest of season 2 or season 3. I watched the movies. They were fine. But that was like my opinion like a while ago. My thoughts have probably changed on Cyberverse. So at some point I'll have to rewatch Cyberverse and see if it still holds up or it's a really dumb show. But continuing on, there was the War for Cybertron trilogy. No, not that one. Yeah, that one. So, of course, the Netflix shows. I mean, they were fine for the most part. I've pretty much said my thoughts on the trilogy as a whole. Siege was fine. Earthrise sucked. It was really boring. Kingdom was okay. And, I mean, it was decent at the time, but just after the War for Cybertron's trilogy, a lot changed after that, especially the toys for Transformers. Then came Legacy. The toy leaks were revealed that this line would be a multiverse for the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the whole franchise. It announced things like a Prime Bulkhead figure, which was awesome because the last Prime Bulkhead we had was when Transformers Prime was still on television. I haven't gotten one ever since. I was so happy that they were exploring things that weren't just G1, because I felt like, yeah, we had our G1 reunion, now it's time to go back on track with original ideas, freshen up the franchise, and then the actual pictures of the figures were revealed, specifically Skids and Legacy Bulkhead. And I, no joke, was absolutely furious when I saw Legacy Bulkhead. I was so mad that they did this to Bulkhead. Just G1-ified him. The render looked awful from what I saw. Eventually they revealed the actual toy itself, and I mean, it looks slightly better, but personally not my cup of tea. I wouldn't have been mad if they didn't call it Prime Bulkhead, but the fact that they did just really did not rub me the right way. And I realize that we are stuck this way. We're going to have G1 for the rest of eternity. No more original ideas. Get that out of here. Sticking to G1. G1 is awesome. Then also to add insult to injury, like 2 years later, Transformers Earthspark came out. And oh boy, I remember the first image of it, and I'm like, no, this is going to suck. And then the actual show came out. It sucked. Not only was it another stupid Transformer show, but it also shoved political messaging into a kid's show. And I'm just like, why do we keep doing this? Like, leave the kids out of these political issues that don't concern them. And some people might say, oh, but they should have a right to know or choose the way they think. Don't get me wrong, kids can be very smart, but unfortunately, they're still young and naive, even though being very clever and mischievous. If you gave them, like, life choices, like, for example, if presented, like, a bag of potato chips and a thing of broccoli, they're gonna most likely go for the potato chips. Kids might be clever and smart, but if you gave them the freedom, they would not make the right and responsible choices. I should know. I was a kid. I made a lot of stupid choices. If you tell them things like they can choose to be a boy or a girl, or they can be neither, or some made-up gender, it's going to confuse them. And it's not Hollywood or these TV companies put this message to kids that this should be a discussion between family, not a bunch of executives that are trying to get cool with trans people, and stupid enough, people fell for it. Make it work. The Transformers YouTubers were pushing out that Earthspark was the greatest Transformers show in existence. And this is where the brand became even worse, because there was even more division in the fan base. Like, if you thought it was bad enough at that time already, it got worse after Earthspark came out. At the same time, Rise of the Beast was released. I'm not going to blame Earthspark for Rise of the Beast's failure. There was a lot of factors to Rise of the Beast's failure. For example, delaying the movie a year off of its release date. Poor marketing. Now, the movie didn't do terrible in the box office. Its budget was decent enough, but not enough for a sequel. And yeah, it really did hurt this movie. Same time, figures were getting harder to find in stores. Like, even going to my local Walmart, there's barely any Transformers figures on the shelves. Transformers had one more shot left, a bit, and that was Transformers 1. Transformers 1 at the time in development for a while. Originally, it was supposed to be a Cybertron story connected to the Michael Bay universe. But at last second, they decided to change it to be its own thing, which I think was the right call. Something new, something refreshing, and also to add some positives about it, it was an animated Transformers movie, which we haven't gotten since Predacons Rising. And personally, I've been advocating for more animated Transformers movies anyway, so it worked perfectly for me. And unfortunately, the movie did terrible in the box office. The movie itself is not bad. Unfortunately, poor marketing and also the first trailer, which was absolutely awful, hurt this movie. The movie ended up failing in the box office. Now, some theaters did put this back out in theaters, and it has been gaining some traction, and it's getting a bit more money than it did the first time. But we cannot deny that the film was a huge failure for Paramount and Transformers as a whole. Also, the figures were starting to get cheaper, as many people noticed. It was very evident with Knight, Age of Extinction Optimus, and Studio Series Gamer Edition, or former Gamer Edition, Ironhide. Just something felt off about the figure. It looked cheap. Like, they did these figures terribly. Oh yeah, and I forgot, they did Q as well, which, what is that figure? That is absolutely terrible. What did they do to that figure? Now, this was something that was brought into my attention by a friend of mine on Discord. He sent me a video, this video specifically. It was very interesting. I highly recommend. He mentioned that the Transformers team, or specifically the people designing the toys, only know how to design G1. And it was very evident when they kicked out a member of the toy designers, that member being Sam Smith. And he was a very heavy designer of the Bayverse stuff. He's known for like TOK Hot Rod. And they let him go recently, which we can tell that very much hurt the Studio Series brand with AOE Optimus and Q. It is so evident. Like, what happened to the decent designs of the toys that match the complexity of the Bayverse designs? Like, they just don't look right. They messed up these figures, like, really bad. And also, the paint is terrible for these. Like, look at this image of Optimus, like the actual figure itself. It looks cheap. It doesn't look like it was painted all the way. Same with Q. They didn't do enough. And the sad thing is, they've been doing this for years, and they keep getting cheaper and cheaper the more they go on. And these toys don't deserve the price range they are set for. They are scamming us, and they think we're dumb enough to follow it. And unfortunately, some people are. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lowered their standards, which I've said it with other things. We need to stop lowering our standards for things. We need to raise our standards as high as possible, because if they keep doing this kind of stuff with both bad writing and designing garbage toys, they're going to think that they will make whatever they want and we're stupid enough to buy it. We need to stop lowering our standards and stand up and say, we will not take these mediocre products anymore. Oh, and you thought if the toys were having a bad rep and the movies, oh boy, let's get to the video games. Ever since Transformers Devastation, the Transformers video games have fallen off. Transformers games were amazing back in the day. So many good games. Dark of the Moon, the video game, except the Wii one, you suck. Also, War and Fall of Cybertron. Devastation. I heard the Armada game was pretty good. What I've played of Transformers the game isn't bad. Like, Revenge of the Fallens. I prefer the Wii version, like the story in that version. I replayed it a bit recently. It's still fun. I enjoy it. But ever since then, Transformers games are very small and they're not very good. Who wants to play Transformers Battlegrounds, Earthspark Expedition, and Galactic Trials? Yeah, who wants to play these games? Yeah, not me, that's for sure. I played a bit of Battlegrounds. I hated Battlegrounds. I didn't even finish Battlegrounds because of how bad it was. Earthspark Expedition, I skipped out on that one because I hate Earthspark as a continuity. And then Galactic Trials, I did try a bit of Galactic Trials because I was at a friend's house and he conveniently had the game. It was average, I guess. The gameplay was better than Battlegrounds, I'll give it that, but that is barely saying much. Continuing on, we were supposed to have a Transformers game that could have brought us back to the glory days of Transformers games, and that was Reactivate. Guess what happened with that? It got canceled. And I'm just like, we were so close, we could have had a good game. The story seemed really interesting and something that Transformers has never done before, and we didn't even get it. Do you know why it was delayed, or one of the reasons it was delayed? Because they restructured the whole game for the next-gen consoles, which I have to say, screw that. You should have released what you had for the systems that were currently there, and if you wanted another Transformers game for the next-gen consoles, you should have developed that next. Like, I'm the only one on this point. Like, they should have stuck with the release they had and just released it, unless if it was unfinished, then finish up what you're doing, release it for PS4 and PS5, like your original plan, and just wait for the time to make a Transformers game for the next-gen consoles. That would have been the smart thing to do, but no. Let's restructure the game piece by piece, so then we can have it for the modern game systems. Ugh. And then, to add a bit of insult to injury, we just had another announcement that another Transformers game was canceled, called Transformers Goliath. This was, I don't know much about the gameplay. I don't think there's really gameplay to go off of. We only have these designs, and I'll say they're nothing too special, unfortunately. It's just G1 Optimus, again, a Bumblebee, which does not look good, and the only design I liked in this game was the mech suit for the human character, which I actually found that very interesting. I don't think we've ever had a Transformers game where a human can help assist a Transformer. Now, yes, Transformers are directly the main playable characters of Transformers games, but I think it would have been interesting, and I don't know if this is the direction they would have went or not, but I think it would have been interesting if they had also a feature where you can play as the human. Maybe like there's areas where only a human can fit, so you would take control of the human character and do whatever task that needs to be done. Kind of like the short characters for Lego games, for those areas that needed a crawl space. Something like that. I think that would have been a really cool idea. But nope, we're gonna cancel another game. Which just frustrates me because we had Reactivate's announcement of a cancellation. Now, the thing that also sucks about this is Hasbro confirmed that they were done supporting the Transformers movies and moving on to video games, which honestly, that's a good idea, because I think we've done too many Transformers movies. We need a break from Transformers movies for a while. I think games is the proper way to save the franchise, but they can't even get a game to stay in production. Like, that is sad. So, Will we ever get a good Transformers game again? I don't know anymore. Like, they announced they're going to focus on games, but then they keep canceling games left and right. Now, apparently there is some sort of game that's in the works with the people that do Warhammer. It's probably going to die anyway. If we actually got a Transformers game that released actually happen, that would be nice. But I think, unfortunately, unless I'm proven wrong, and trust me, I really want to be wrong on this. Unless if a game is released, I think we're going to stick with the garbage kids games for the rest of eternity. We will never get a good Transformers game ever again. And even the shows aren't looking that good either. Now, yes, Earthspark is going to be ending very soon. Thank goodness that the show is ending. And we have an announcement for Cyberworld, which we already have a disappointing factor that each episode is going to be 5 minutes. And who knows what's going on anymore? Because the franchise is just repeat of G1, bad products, bad shows, bad movies, or average movies. It is not getting anywhere popular anytime soon. It keeps losing money as a brand, and it might not last that long. I have a simple message for Hasbro, even though they're probably not going to listen. First of all, cut this G1 stuff. G1 is not helping. We are basically getting the same designs over and over again. We need something new and fresh for the franchise. Number 2, release a gosh darn video game already. You said video games was going to be the future of Transformers, but you still haven't done it. Keep up with your promise. Pretty much the only things that are keeping your franchise somewhat at bay are toys and also the comics, and that's about it. You said video games would be your future, but then you proceed to cancel every single game idea you have. Like, we've had 2 games in a row get canceled. There might even be more Transformers games that were canceled that we don't even know about. So keep to your word and make the video games, and don't make them those stupid cheap video games that you've been making lately. Make games that people of older fans would actually like, not these stupid cheap garbage that we've been getting. Something new for once. But that's all I have to say, really. What do you think about the state of Transformers? Do you think it's somehow getting better, or do you think it's gotten worse over the years like I do? Tell me in the comments, and have a nice day, everyone.